Hey guys, what's going on? In today's video, we're going to be checking out the Hasbro 1986 release of Inhumanoids, Tendril. Okay, so this guy's going to be a little bit bigger. Let's take the tape measure to find out that Tendril up to his shoulders is approximately 14.5 inches. Now, let's also just do some measurements for how wide the figure is too. You're looking at from one arm, if you can call it an arm, to the other. Tendril is approximately 16 inches wide. Unfortunately for Tendril here, I don't have the box. I had the box for both Decompose and Metlarb. Unfortunately, didn't have a box at the time that I bought this guy. I didn't have the box for him because I bought this guy on eBay a long time ago, and I had done the video equally so a long time ago. Thought it would be fun to kind of go back and have a look at some of these vintage toys. So let's have a look at Tendril, which is a really neat looking figure. Equally so also a really neat looking character in the cartoon. Kind of a plant-based creature where even like severing things off of it, it would grow. And ultimately in the show, we got ourselves two tendrils, two creatures that were moving around because part of it was severed off. So having a look at his face, and it's a little harder to kind of get everything in camera here, but having a look at his face, it's a little on the dusty side, I'm afraid. But hopefully that will not ruin this review. He does have light piping. It runs along the top here, the top grill of his head here, and it will light these little extensions, these translucent orange extensions out from the front of his face. He's kind of got like alien bug-like eyes. In fact, looking at him now, not knowing what the character would have been back then, he kind of reminds me of also the Cthulhu. Very like kind of octopus-like in the face here. His body is seemingly to be a lot lighter in shades of color. The more vibrant greens and vibrant, even like darker greens, are a little bit more obvious here on the arms, the legs. That the face ultimately comes across a little on the dark and slightly discolored side. His body is made up of these large arms that does have actually posability. And then he's got these little extensions, and I say little, I mean it's far from being little. These should be wire framed. They have the little air hole slots there on the sides that you should be able to bend these, but over the course of time, the wires probably have deteriorated a little bit, that they don't bend as well as they probably were when you initially bought them. We spin the figure around. There's the back of him here. He has these long kind of trails that come out from the bottom of his torso, and these are a soft rubber. In fact, a lot of Tendril is rubber. Like his legs seem like they're more of a softer rubbery plastic. These extensions, these little, I don't know what you would call them, these little vine-like arms, they're also a softer rubber. But the only thing that's plastic on this guy is the main torso and the arm areas here. Let's get some close look details here at the body. It looks like it's just so organic. He looks like almost like an organism. He's got these little kind of suction cup protrusions sticking out here. It's got some nice texturing work too, and equally so, some nice paint, although it does have the same problem as the other Inhumanoid pieces in the fact that this just seems like random placement of colors. Here doesn't have it much on the way in his back, but then if you spin the figure around, he's got a lot more of the shading here on the front, which blends a little bit better to the head, even though again the head seems like a slightly different shade of green than the rest of the body here. One thing I have to say about this particular figure, especially keeping it in storage, because he has rubber pieces or the equivalent of rubber plastic on this guy, he's a magnet when it comes to dust, hair, debris, anything that may have entered into the box where you guys or wherever somebody is storing this piece. So he unfortunately does have a like little dust and hair and stuff stuck to him that I may take maybe like a wet cloth. Just kind of wipe him down, I think, if I ever want to put this guy out on display. Speaking of displaying, though, if you want to display him along with, say, the likes of Earthcore, if I not knock everything off in the process, there he is next to Dr. Derek Bright. He's about the height, give or take about mid-thigh, of Inhumanoids Tendril here. Also, actually, just before we have a look at him, comparing him to the other Inhumanoids, maybe we'll do the articulation on this guy, and then we'll kind of look at him versus the other Inhumanoids in final looks. So, posability, his head rotates left and right. That's about all you're really going to be able to do for it. The arms rotate back and forth, but they rotate like, if we spin the figure this way, the torso is kind of cut this way. So really, when you rotate him, you're rotating the arms outward and not so much forward and back. This also can increase his wing span or his arm span, giving a much wider looking figure than what he was initially. But those do rotate. These also rotate. The legs will rotate back and forth. It would be neat if you could get him to stand where it looks like he's stomping down on something, but it just can't be accomplished, because as soon as you move the leg too far up, it makes him off balance and then he wants to just topple over. And then lastly, if we spin the figure around, these little back areas here also rotate back and forth. Got some nice coloring there as well, but these don't seem to have the same coloring as other things. Like the legs don't match the torso, doesn't match the head. It's a small gripe, but it's something I should mention as well in the video. Okay. So let's see if I can grab all of these. Do bear with me. I'm gonna move Tendril over. I'm gonna bring in Metlar. Of the three figures, he's the hardest to stand. And then on top of that, we're also going to bring in Decompose, if I can get his legs to stand correctly and not topple over. He is one of the more difficult of the three to stand. Well, you saw the review. It's a little bit difficult to stand as well. Tendril is the easiest to stand. Mind you, if the legs are not loose on both of these figures. And of course now, while we're looking at these in a review where all three of them are being shown, that's when they all give me the problems. We'll put Decompose in the back there. And pray that he stands. There we go. Okay. So there's your three Inhumanoids. And then just also for fun, there he is next to one of the Earth Corps members. So you can see again how much bigger these three figures are, the three Inhumanoids, versus the smaller Earth Corps members way down below here. While both Decompose and Metlar look a lot cooler in the cartoon than I think Tendril does, my own opinion at least, they don't translate as well to plastic form. Tendril, on the other hand, I think is one of the coolest, if not the coolest, of the Inhumanoids in the actual figures. He's got a real good size to him. He definitely feels like a more meatier looking figure, and he feels a little bit more stable than the other two Inhumanoids that we had to look at. A lot of times if you go to people's collection for Inhumanoids, you always tend to see Tendril before you see the other two. Tendril, I think, probably was released a lot more in circulation. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it does seem like a lot of people seem to have Tendril, especially if you look online on eBay and whatnot. Tendril seems to be the easiest one to find of the Inhumanoid three monsters. He's got some great design elements to him. Colors don't always match, like the legs don't match the torso, but it's an 80s toy. We can kind of overlook a lot of that sort of stuff. Again, a great looking sized figure. It's one of those cool pieces that maybe you probably have seen over the course of your time going to different conventions and whatnot. May have saw him and thought, wow, that's a really neat looking toy. I have no idea what it's from. The answer is Inhumanoids. If you also haven't had a chance to check out Inhumanoids cartoon, I have to admit it's one of the cooler cartoons that was around in the 80s. Both Visionaries and Inhumanoids were my two favorite of the cartoons, and not cartoons I would say that really get as much love, say for example, against G.I. Joe and Transformers, the more popular, I would think, of the 80s cartoons. But still, it's a great show to watch. Even nowadays, I find myself watching the Inhumanoids cartoon. It's scarier and creepier than, say, a G.I. Joe or Transformers, and it's just a fun cartoon. The toys are equally fun. Not as much the likeness as, say, they look like in the cartoon themselves, but still equally cool toys nonetheless. Today we were wrapping up our reviews, at least of the monsters, the larger Inhumanoids. There's still the smaller monsters. We're going to be looking at those as well. But Inhumanoid-wise, we're wrapping up our reviews with looking at Tendril here. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so, because you'll never miss a beat when it comes to future videos. Of course, we're going to have a look at some more Inhumanoid stuff. I've got planned some Visionaries. We're going to have a look at those in future videos as well. Lots of vintage toys lined up for 2018. And of course, don't worry, there's still going to be the newer toys as well. Can't ever overlook the newer toys, the newer cool collectibles as well. Either way, guys, make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.